Danny Russo wasn't just a comedy titan, he was a ghost in a spotlight. The man could make a room laugh until their sides hurt, but few knew the real joke. His razor-sharp wit and polished routines masked a much darker truth. Beneath the bravado of sold-out arenas, there was a man whose punchlines were as lethal as his silenced pistols. For years, Danny had been a master of misdirection. The crowd roared at his jokes, oblivious to the fact that behind the laughter, he was an assassin for the highest bidder. An exclusive 800 number advertised as his booking line doubled as a direct line to his other clientele, the elite who needed problems erased. Arms dealers, cartel kingpins, and power-hungry investors had all hired him at one point or another. To them, Danny wasn't just a comic. He was the ultimate fixer, a phantom executioner who left audiences in stitches while his targets drew their last breath. Tonight, however, was different. Danny was flying into Las Vegas, a city built on illusions, to close a deal that had already been set in motion. The job was simple enough. Eliminate Judge Elena Vance, a no-nonsense figure who stood in the way of billionaire Marcus Thorne's latest real estate venture. But nothing in Danny's world was ever simple. As he touched down, the familiar hum of the city's neon glow greeted him. But there was a certain unease in the air, a discordant note in the symphony of the Strip. The first clue came on his phone, a message from his encrypted line. The judge is in her 50s, married with 2 kids, no known bodyguards. She spends a lot of time at her private residence near Summerlin. Could be easy, could be tricky. Be careful. Danny smirked at the easy part. His entire career was built on taking jobs others would consider impossible, and there was always more to the story than what was first laid out. He slid his sunglasses back on, adjusting his jacket as he stepped into a sleek black SUV. The lights of the Strip blurred in the rearview mirror, but for Danny, they were just a distraction. The real game had already begun. He wasn't just a comedian, he was a killer. And tonight, he had a new audience to entertain. Danny Russo stepped off the plane, the scorching Las Vegas heat slapping him awake as he adjusted his Ray-Bans. The bright neon lights of the Strip were just flickering on, but for Danny, the night had already begun. Another gig, another city, another job. A quick glance at his phone told him his 800 number service had forwarded the latest contract to his encrypted line. The judge is in her 50s, married, 2 kids, no known bodyguards. She spends a lot of time near Summerlin. Could be easy, could be tricky. Be careful. Danny smirked. Easy was a joke. No job was ever that simple. But the challenge? That was something he relished. He slipped into a sleek black SUV and checked the rearview mirror, always alert. He wasn't just a comedian, he was a master of misdirection. The key to his success? Keep them laughing, keep them off balance, and strike when they least expect it. The phone buzzed again. It was Vinny, his old contact. Danny, you still good for tonight? The usual setup at the Mirage, yeah, but lay low. Word is feds are sniffing around. Don't know what's going on, but just be careful. Danny chuckled, amused. Lay low? His entire life was low profile. Sure, Vinny. Just keep the lights on for me. By the time Danny arrived at the Mirage, the show was sold out as usual. He stood backstage, preparing for his set, but his mind was elsewhere. The judge he was hired to kill was in his sights, but there was something off about this one. A billionaire named Marcus Thorne had hired him for the job, promising a fat payout, enough to disappear for good. But Danny knew better than to trust anyone, especially when money was involved. And this job, it didn't feel right. Too many unknowns, too many loose ends. All right, folks, you ready for some jokes? Danny strutted onto the stage, smiling as the crowd erupted in cheers. His routine began, a mix of self-deprecation, raunchy humor, and political jabs. He was flawless in delivery, but his mind was constantly scanning the crowd, always vigilant for threats. But tonight was different. The audience wasn't just there for laughs. There were 2 men sitting at the back, eyes locked on him with cold intent. They didn't laugh. They just watched. Hey folks, what's the deal with assassination? Danny quipped, his tone light. You hire a guy, he does the job, and then you get a thank you note. No tip, no nothing. The 2 men didn't flinch. The air in the room grew heavier. Danny's instincts screamed something was wrong. After the show, Danny checked his encrypted phone. His service had sent another update. FBI got a tip. The judge's husband is linked to the cartel. Be careful. Another hitman's on his way in. You're not the only one hunting her. His stomach churned. Another assassin? This wasn't a simple job anymore. Danny had to act fast. He grabbed a gun from the hotel safe, checked the clip, and smiled at his reflection. The mirror reflected his duality, comedian, killer. He could feel the familiar rush of adrenaline, but this time it wasn't just the job that had him on edge. Silas, his rival assassin, was coming for the same target. "I always get a second chance," Danny muttered to himself, adjusting his tie. This job might get complicated, but he had handled worse. Later that evening, Danny sat in a nondescript car, watching as Judge Elena Vance walked out of a restaurant, laughing with colleagues. No bodyguards, no security detail. She was just another person, untouchable, at least in her own mind. But Danny was already 3 steps ahead. He dialed his 800 number, rerouting the call to his backup plan. The other hitman would move first, trying to lead the judge into a trap. Danny's plan was simple. Let the other assassin make the mistake, then swoop in and clean up. "Got the judge," came the voice on the other end. Danny's lips curled into a smile. "You sure about that? Because she's not the target anymore." There was a pause on the line. "What are you talking about?" "The joke's on you." A shadow emerged from the darkness. It was Silas, his rival assassin, his face cold with fury. "You always were too clever for your own good, Danny." Danny didn't flinch. He had planned this all along, luring Silas into a trap. The two assassins were a mirror image of each other, but Danny always had one advantage. He was the better strategist. The confrontation between Danny and Silas was swift and brutal. The two men fought like predators, but Danny's mind worked faster. He used misdirection, timing, and his intimate knowledge of Silas's moves to disorient his rival. It was a deadly dance, but Danny had always been the better performer. Silas made a fatal mistake when he underestimated Danny's ability to think on his feet. In the final moments, Danny struck, delivering the killing blow. As Silas crumpled to the ground, Agent Mallory Kincaid appeared, weapon raised. She studied Danny for a moment, her eyes cold and calculating. "You saved her," Kincaid said, her voice laced with disbelief. Danny smiled grimly, wiping blood from his hands. "I always clean up my messes." Kincaid hesitated, then took a step forward. "You think you can hide behind that comedian persona forever?" Danny's lips curled into a sardonic grin. "And now for my next act." He pulled a small USB drive from his pocket and tossed it to her. "Marcus Thorne. He's the real target. The judge was just a distraction. Thorne's involved in illegal weapons sales. You'll find everything you need on that drive." Kincaid caught the drive and stared at him. "You're playing a dangerous game, Russo." Danny's eyes gleamed with dark humor. "Aren't we all?"